Hi y'all, welcome back. I'm Beth. Today we are setting up my son's custom bullet journal for August 2024, and we are continuing our theme of the Magnus archives, this time diving into the entity that is the Extinction. Now the sun is setting, we have a little bit of sunshine to contend with. It'll be fine. This is the time that I have to film, so we're going to go ahead and do it. For the torn paper element in this setup, I have printed out this skull and bones sort of situation, and I've pre-pasted that in just so that we've got a little bit of a head start and it doesn't take me quite as long. I'm going to jump right into inking out my sketch lines with the Pigma Micron 0.05. I'm also going to use the Pigma Micron brush pen here a little bit, and then my accent color is going to be a Tombow 076, which is kind of a fun baby puke color to go with the end of the world. Speaking of the end of the world, let's explore one of the newer entities creeping into the fear landscape. This one is the Extinction. Imagine a fear so deep that it isn't just about dying. It's about humanity's complete annihilation and the rise of something entirely different in our place. The Extinction is the embodiment of that dread. Once linked to the entity of the end, it is now its own beast, feeding off our terror of catastrophic change. This isn't the fear of a sudden apocalypse, but a slow, horrifying shift where technology, climate disasters, and human-made catastrophes reshape our world until we don't recognize ourselves anymore. As mentioned, here is that Tombow accent color. Kenny was with me at Michael's when I bought this months ago. Have never found a place to use it, and now I'm going to sneak it into this setup because he absolutely hated this color. Back to the Extinction. First mentioned in 2006, it has been lurking in the shadows waiting for the right moment to strike. It's tied to doomsday events like bombs, climate change, and even the idea that technology will strip away our humanity, leaving behind something cold and alien. It's not just about the end of life, it's about what comes after. As always, I have picked a Shakespearean quote to go along with this entity, this one coming from Richard II, Act 3, Scene 2. Woe, destruction, ruin, and decay. The worst is death, and death will have his day. And that will wrap up our cover page for August. Now all of this imagery is just general Extinction-led event type imagery, not from any specific episode from the Extinction, but setting up the calendar here on the next page, and we are going to dive into one of those creepy episodes. And these illustrations come from Statement 144, Decrypted. Gary Boylan moves back to his childhood home after losing his mom and his business, supposedly to help his father, but the real reason might be something a little bit darker. The house is on a lonely, isolated road with only one neighbor nearby. His father, a former vet, has become cold and detached after his wife's death, making the relationship with his son strained and awkward. Gary often takes long walks in the surrounding desolate fields to escape the oppressive atmosphere. During one of these walks, something truly unsettling happens. His iPod, it's from that generation, suddenly cuts out and starts playing a mysterious track titled Numbers. It begins with the opening of the Skyboat song, but then features a creepy, distorted voice reciting sequences of numbers. 5, 9, 3, 7, 5, 6. The numbers weren't just random, though. Gary became obsessed, convinced they were some sort of message, maybe from an old numbers station. 3, 0, 5, 8, 3, 9, 2, 8, 4, 6. This bizarre phenomenon repeats itself, leading Gary to an old abandoned power pylon. The numbers seem to emanate from it, and he spends hours writing them down, believing they hold some terrifying truth about humanity's doom. Eventually, he realizes the real horror wasn't in the numbers themselves, but in their origin, his iPod, a revelation that drives him to the brink of madness. When Gary returns home, he finds his house in ruins, his father a charred shadow. His final message? Humanity is creating its own destruction, and something terrible is on the way. That's going to wrap up the calendar page with our supposed number station, as well as Gary's iPod, and of course just a few random numbers scattered around the page. Moving on, and we're going to set up Kenny's spending log and his notes page. This is a super simple page on both sides. On the right side, I leave most of it predominantly open. On the left side, it's just a really simple spending log. This time I did add in a column for the balance as well. And then for the art on this page, I'm going back to taking a cue from the cover page. This is not going to be related to any specific episode, but it is just going to be sort of a cracked seabed with trash at the bottom of it. One of the signs that our oceans have dried up and we've left all the trash behind. And then here in the skull and bones area, I'm also going to bust out the white Posca paint pen and draw sort of the framework of a dying tree. I'm not sure how much longer we're going to have the spending log in Kenny's journal. It's one of those things that he's starting to take a little bit more seriously and get into doing a little bit more budgeting rather than just keeping track of spending. But for now, it's in there, and when he's ready for it to go and he starts using digital tools, then we'll pull it back out again. But that is it for that page. Like I said, super simple, spending log on one side. That spending log also does have a column for need and want, so he can indicate those things that he purchased that were just wants. All right, we're going to set up some weeklies. August has 5 weeks in it, so we're going to have 2 spreads with 2 weeks on it each, and then we'll do something a little bit different for the 5th week. This is a relatively new setup. We first did this setup of weeklies in June and then kept it for July, and he really likes it, so we're going to keep it for August. So it's a little bit different than if you go back and watch the videos from January through May. Now, what else is going to be a little bit different is that on all of the weeklies, we are going to reference a single statement from the Magnus archives in regards to the Extinction, and it is called Epic. EPOCH, because it takes place after the end. It is what is left. It is a series of notes observing the new world. And the first note relates to a lamp. It is old, partially melted, and so covered in stains that its original color cannot be determined. It is too badly damaged to work with a cracked bulb, cut wires, and there's no power in this new world anyway. Despite this, it does turn on, and the light it casts draws the color from everything around it, leaving nothing but gray. The second note relates to seagulls. They can no longer fly. They're too tangled in plastic wrapping to move their wings. Their feathers are black from oil, and their throats are filled with concrete so they make no noise. They cannot see and hunt by hearing, stalking their prey with serrated beaks and many jointed legs. Their babies are born already covered in oil and plastic. Their name is technically inaccurate because there is no longer a sea. Here I've illustrated these first 2 items in our epic inventory. Number 1, lamp. Number 2, seagulls. Moving on to the second pair of weeklies, and I'm going to set up this page just like I did the other one. I'm just going to flip-flop the elements from one side of the page to the other, just to keep it a little bit more interesting. As our statement writer Leah walks through this new world, writing down these statements of these inventory items, she has to stop from time to time. After the seagulls, she has to hide behind a vending machine, waiting for something that's hunting her to pass before she can carry on. The third note that Leah writes down relates to an old book. It's a history book, although of what kind of history is unclear from the damaged title. It has been dipped in some kind of fat, and the pages have clogged together from water damage. When pressed, water pours from it, and it screams. Leah remembers maybe having read the book once, back when its history seemed important, and when she was trying to warn people of what was to come. But in the end, it meant nothing. The fourth note is a scathing critique of an umbrella. What is an umbrella doing here? It hasn't rained in 50 years, and the only clouds are poisonous clouds of sulfur. The only water is in the wet rot of towering piles of garbage that fill the seabed. Its fabric is too damaged to even protect from the constant baking sun. Leah wishes she had enough water in her body to spit on it. Here is at number 3, the book, and number 4, the umbrella, and we're ready to move on to that 5th week that I told you that we have in August, which means I'm also going to have an odd out page. So here on the left, we're going to squish in the week just so that he has both a task list as well as a place to write down something that he may need to do each day. And then on the right, fitting with the theme of the extinction and how we can possibly do things to avoid such a fate, I put in a page for him where he can write down simple ways that he can reduce his carbon emissions, change his footprint, reduce, reuse, recycle, all of those sorts of things. But we also still have some of Leah's inventory items to get through that she has noted down in her notebook. The 5th relates to a native of the wasteland. This is its world and its home. It does not care what a human was. It hides beneath the rubble, so all that is seen are its dark, empty eyes, its oddly familiar smile, and its long, unfurling, grasping tongue. It mutters to itself in a voice that sounds like old toothpaste commercials and army recruitment messages. Different ones have been seen, but Leah does not know if that means there are multiple or if there is just one getting bigger. Leah muses that even if she had seen what was to come, no one would have believed her. The final item is a bone, a ribcage and a skull, yellowing in the sun. It seems oddly familiar somehow. Leah wonders who it belonged to and if she might have been able to save them with an earlier warning, as she tears off another one of her ribs to write with. We are going to wrap up this spread with a little bit of highlighting of every other line to make it easier on our eyes to see, and then we'll be ready to move on to the final spread in this August setup. And that's going to be a playlist page as well as a monthly review. Now, while we set this one up, we are going to review the statement of Adelard Decker titled Time of Revelation. Adelard now firmly believes in his theory of a 15th entity after being alerted to the case of Bernadette Delcourt. Bernadette, an expert in eschatology at the University of Lyon, had received a call about a discovery related to Garland Hillier, a member of the Millerite movement, which believed the apocalypse would occur specifically on October 22, 1844. When the date passed without incident, it became known as the Great Disappointment. Hillier took this especially hard, retreating to France where he spent 20 years writing ignored volumes of poetry and essays on belief and atheism. Hillier's final essay, titled L'Avenir, the Future, speculates on the end of humanity, replaced by new beings he calls the Inheritors. He paints a bleak picture for humanity, but offers no details on these inheritors. His work fades into obscurity, with Bernadette being one of the few familiar with it. In 1867, Hillier disappears without a trace. His last known whereabouts are his apartment, which remains untouched for almost 150 years, until workmen uncover it. Inside, they find his journal filled with nonsensical entries, the final one repeatedly stating La porte est la porte. The door is the door. Bernadette visits the apartment and experiences an eerie sense of stepping into a place where time stands still. After inspecting the room, she notices the door, previously damaged by the workmen, is now in pristine condition. She dismisses this as a trick of memory. As she leaves, she finds the stairwell coated in a dusty discoloration with no sound or signs of life. Outside, Bernadette encounters a street filled with corpses, some disfigured and embedded into the street or walls, clearly untouched for a century. Realizing the horrifying reality, she recalls Hillier's message about the door and retreats back to his apartment just in time to barricade herself inside. When the door returns to its damaged state, she exits into the world she knows. And that will wrap up the playlist and reflection spread, and we will flip back to the beginning and jaunt back through this journey through the extinction. Considering in this video I have outed the extinction as the 15th of the entities, that means we have 3 that we're never going to touch on. Or are we? Because there's only 12 months in a year and we have 15 entities. I can tell you the boy has a plan for one of them, and he's okay with us leaving 2 of them out. He chose them and assigned them to each month for a particular purpose. Just for fun, let me know down in the comments below what you think about this accent color, this yellowy green sort of color. Once it was down on the page, the boy had no idea this was the marker that he hated so much when I bought it at Michael's a couple of months ago. If you made it this far, leave me some kind of litter-related emoji, a trash can, a tire, a cooking can, any of those things will do. And make a guess, if you know what they are, of what might be one of our last 4 entities for the year. That is it for Kenny's custom journal for August 2024. If you like this video, you know what to do. Please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one.